Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I want to give you just a little preview of Deckers, and this is a game that's coming out at Essen. It is designed by Richard Wilkins, aka Ricky Royal. He is both one of my favorite working designers and somebody that I've gotten to work with now because we have been doing the solo and co-op modes for Oath. So I think very highly of Ricky's work, and I think very highly of Deckers. I actually loved it when it was in its previous implementation as well. It was once called Renegade, and it has since been updated and re-released as Deckers. So if you liked Renegade, this is like a smoother, upgraded version of that. If you never got your hands on Renegade, this is an improvement anyway, and you should pick it up. Rather than do like a huge extended play, because those are already available from other YouTubers, I want to talk about what makes this game special and just kind of move some pieces around, walk you through a turn so that you know kind of what you're getting into. So the first thing I want to say about Deckers is it is a puzzly game. You are supposed to draw your cards, really kind of wring the most possible stuff out of them, and take pleasure in really planning out what you're going to do and the actions that you're going to take. And this game gives you a really flexible space for that. And to me, that is its charm. So Ricky himself will tell you that technically this is cooperative and you can play with several people. I would not do that unless you were all very patient. I think this is a solo game where you're playing with one or two Deckers. Maybe it's a two-player game where you're each playing with one and you like to talk about your games together and you're willing to take your time. I personally would not necessarily go higher than that for a game, even though it's technically possible, just because I don't think that that is the game at peak enjoyability. So for you solo players who like to sit here and enjoy your game, rejoice, this is for you. So the premise of Deckers is basically the same as the premise of Renegade. Each Decker is a hacker, and you are hacking into these supercomputers that are running the world and suppressing humanity. And you are doing that by taking various actions and trying to reach various goals. So each game, you're going to set up the map. This is the tutorial map setup, but there are basically, you can do a custom map after you do this first scenario, and you can set up the servers as you like in a way that you think is advantageous. There's also a variant where there are different colors on the servers. So these pieces offer you, even just in the map, some variety. The puzzle can go on and on. So you're going to set up your map. You're also going to choose a supercomputer to go up against. So this is the very basic tutorial one, probably the first one you'll face. This is Alpha Moby. And it is definitely the easiest. So I recommend starting here just to kind of learn how the game works. But the fun thing about this game is that there are several different SMCs, is what they're called, that really ratchet up the difficulty level. So you can go all the way from Alpha Moby up to a 4-star mother computer that is really terrifying and difficult to deal with. So you have the SMCs themselves that'll push back against you in varying ways depending on which one you're playing against. They have different special rules. They do different things. They require you to have different goals in order to win. And then the other aspect of the game that interacts with the SMC for you to have a challenge is this set of goals. So each game of Deckers is going to have a different set of goals depending on what SMC you're playing with. So Alpha Moby over here in the setup is telling you that they need 1 bronze, 1 silver, and 1 gold goal set up for you to try to win. But those configurations can change, and you can go for more difficult goals. There can be different distributions, and you're usually randomly determining those. However, for this game, this is set up just like the tutorial in case that's what you want to play first. There are 3 goals that are recommended that you start with for your very first game. So you have the copper goal, 404 not found. This one is just space 4 on each Decker's home server needs to be clear of all sparks and guardians. And we're going to talk about what that means in just a moment. But then you have the neural matrix, which is forcing you to put programs of your own out on specific spaces on the board. And then you have Hackman, which is an enemy that you have to defeat, but you can't just go in there and punch them. You're going to have to find an indirect way to take care of the problem. The thing that's interesting about these goals is that in order to win the game, you only actually have to succeed at that final one. However, each goal that you succeed at along the way gives you a benefit, and every one that you fail along the way gives you a little bit of a punishment. So you definitely care about these, and you want to pursue them. However, you're not going to automatically have a game over if you mess up on one of them. So I think that's a nice way to handle it, because I don't always want my game to just end because I messed up, but I do want to be rewarded for good planning. One thing that is very interesting about the SMCs themselves is that each of them does have different rules, but all those rules are relatively simple in the sense that the SMC doesn't have a turn so much as a spawn step where it puts more sparks out on the board. So you're not going to be doing anything overly complex for the enemy, and I like that because it means that you spend more time thinking and having your turn. And in my opinion, that's a very good element of solo design. So what you are dealing with is these sparks are going to come out all the time. You are component limited. That includes both your programs and the sparks. So it also impacts your colors. So red and yellow are two sides of the same coin, as it were, and same thing for blue and green. And what that means is that you're component limited and you're choosing which kinds of programs to put more out on the board. For the enemy pieces, you have these sparks. So there are black sparks, which are just the basic ones. And then there are white sparks, which are a little bit more dangerous. If there's ever a point where you can't put a spark out on the board and you need to, then you will lose the game. So we have programs, they have sparks, but we're all putting out these little circular pieces on the board. When you upgrade from programs or from sparks, you get either installations for us or guardians for the AI. So installations are a more powerful version of program that can no longer move, but they have ways to help you that are much more intense. And then over here, we've got these guardians. Again, you have a black side and a white side. And what's interesting about the white side guardians is that you can't even actually enter their space, which is part of what makes them really challenging. They are going to force you to ghost in. So there are ways to kind of go as yourself and yet not yourself to various spaces on the map. With the white sparks, the biggest difference between them and the black sparks is that white sparks will not only fight your programs, which all sparks will do, but these will capture programs, which means that in a piece limited game, they're taking things off the map that make it harder for you to operate and make it more likely that you're going to run out of the tools that you need if you let these get out of control. For us to turn our programs into installations, we just need to make a lot of them. So basically we're using the symbols on the cards to make programs. And then we can also use commands from these cards to turn 3 programs into an installation. And there are powers that you can use that will kind of bump that up. So for example, if I'd wanted to, during setup, I placed these 4 blue programs because I'm the only decker and there are 4 empty servers. So I got 4 blues. These help with movement, so I decided to chain them. But if I wanted to, I could put 3 here and then turn them into an installation. Sparks don't necessarily move on their own, but if 3 of them end up in a space together, they're immediately going to be removed from the board and turned into a guardian. And sort of like in Pandemic, if you put a spark where there's already a guardian, you're going to trigger a chain reaction where they spawn in all the surrounding spaces, which is going to pile up more sparks, possibly create more guardians. And if you run out of pieces through that, it's going to cause you to lose the game. So you have to be careful about managing the threat, but there are also some threats you're going to have to let go in pursuit of your goals. Those are the basics about how the enemy works. You might also want to know about the different kinds of things that you can do in the game as a decker. So you have this commands and actions aid card, which is actually like super good. I use it a lot. But the most important thing for you to know, so the first action color is blue, and blue is for movement. Basically, normally I would have to pay 1 blue symbol off of my cards to move 1 hex, but with these blue programs, I can move freely within chains of these programs. I can pay 1 movement point basically and just move as much as I want in here. If there is a blue installation, then you can teleport from there to any space on the entire network. So if I needed some more long-range movement, if I needed to go very far, then I could build a blue installation and use it to launch myself across the board. Green is more of a piece position manipulation color. So it lets you shift, which means that you are pushing either your programs or enemy sparks to adjacent spaces. So you can push either from your avatar space or from any space with a green program or installation on the network. And it's just like 1 green symbol on a card per push. So you want to place green if you want to manipulate where things are positionally throughout the network. Green also allows you to do something cool called ghosting. So basically there are times when your avatar cannot enter a space, but if you have a green installation and your avatar is there, then you are able to perform any action as if your avatar is on any space in that same server. So you can do a bunch of stuff without, in fact, moving at all. because you can essentially send your ghost to a place that you think would be cool. Yellow commands are interesting because they allow you to modify. Basically, if your yellow programs outnumber the sparks in a space, then you can remove one of your yellows and a spark and replace that with either another yellow or an additional color, depending on what symbols you're paying. And then a yellow installation makes that action more efficient, so you don't have to have more yellow programs. You can have an equal number. So basically modify, rather than actually fight something and remove it from the board, you can take sparks, which are hostile pieces, and turn them into allied pieces of your color choice, which is neat. And then red is the aggressive color. It lets you infect. So basically, if I wanted to just get in a fight with a spark, I could do that and roll dice, and there are modifiers. So the commands that you pay, they're red. The result of your dice, the red programs and installations that are present, all contribute to the power of your infect action. With sparks, it's kind of similar. You get a die for them as well. And they're going to roll for sparks in the space, for guardians in the space, and for adjacent guardians. So you can always lose, depending on your setup with red, unless you really, really put a lot of effort into ensuring that win. So you're playing a little bit of odds here, but I think that that's cool. So that is the very basic overview of what you're doing in a game of Deckers. I think what I want to do now is just take a sample turn and walk you through the steps so that you know exactly what it is you'll do when you play the game. Hopefully you will. All right, so now that we have got our setup, I actually looked at the cards and made a couple of adjustments before we actually start our sample of play. But we are ready to do a sample turn. So I have an opening hand that is a couple of sabotage cards, a bypass, which is a green symbol, an intercept, which is yellow, and a focus, which is 2 green. So we're going to do the best that we can with these babies. We're going to play through one full set of turns, like a round, and then call it for this video, I think. So first thing, sequence of play, intel phase. So we know we're dealing with Alpha Moby, and our goal is 404 not found. So the goal is for space 4 on our home space, our home server, to be clear of all sparks and guardians. And there's a special rule, which is during the command phase, which we're about to resolve, anytime a spark would enter space 6, it is placed on space 4 instead. So we're going to have to come over here and keep trying to keep it clear. All right, so that was our intel phase. We're going to move on to command phase. So we're going to resolve any start of turn effects. During the start of turn step, the active Decker places 1 spark on their space. And of course, Ricky has set us up for a little bit of a bite immediately because it would come in here on space 6, but actually it's going to go into space 4. Uh-oh. So that is because we got to go clear it out. So rude. We would spawn new sparks, except that in the spawn step, there are none during the copper goal phase. So we are okay for now on spawning new sparks. We know that in silver and in gold, we will spawn 1 black spark for each of those. You can end up doing white ones and more than one and all that with more difficult SMCs. Now we get to the fun part, which is perform actions by playing cards. You can keep 1 card for next turn. So let's see how this is going to play out. So kind of looking at these, one thing I definitely want to do is go clear. I need to clear out space 4. And I want to make sure that I do it in a way that doesn't lead to me just continuing to have problems in space 4. The other thing I'd like to potentially do is do a little bit of build up in space 5, 3, and 1, because I'm looking ahead to Neural Matrix, and I need to have at least 1 green program or installation on each odd-numbered space on X servers, where X is Deckers +1, so 2 different servers. So if I can get a little bit of work going in on my home server, then I can work on another server next round, and I think that would probably be helpful. So let's see what I've got. I don't love this spark being here, but it's not an immediate threat to me. So I think I might want to come here and get rid of this one maybe, and then get out of the way. Whatever it is, I don't want to be on 6. The other thing I can do is I can move to a different spot on the server and have the next spark go here, and then deal with the one on 4 on like one of my next turns. So like I have options for how I want to deal with this. The other thing I want to think about is, do I want to upgrade a card? So the way upgrades work in this game is you pay in symbols the cost that's in the top right hand corner of the card. If you use one card to pay for an upgrade, then the upgrade replaces that card in your deck. That card leaves. If I use 2 cards to pay for an upgrade, one of them leaves my deck, and then the other one gets discarded. So, you always have 15 cards in your deck. It's how you know when your round is over, as you're going to see shortly. So it's really, really important that we keep good accounting on that. So I think what I want to do, I think I'm going to do Focus and Intercept as my 2 cards that I'm going to use to pay for this D&I reboot. So the reason that works is 3 symbols of any kind, any combo, make a wild, and a wild can be anything. So purples are wild. So I have 1, 2, 3 symbols on these cards, and that's going to make 1 wild, which I can use to pick up this card. So I'm going to remove Intercept from my deck entirely. I know I need the green for my next goal, so I don't want to remove green from my deck. And I'm going to take this card. This one goes into my hand. The focus card goes into discard. So now I've got 4 cards left to work with. This market over here is not going to refill until the end of the turn. You can also do as many trade outs as you want to or can afford, but that's not the goal here for me right now. I think what I might like to do is go ahead and move. I want to deal with that spark and the paranoid part of me, but it is what it is. Okay, I think what I would like to do is I want to use this purple wild as a blue to move. I can move basically anywhere in here for 1 point because all these little blues are connected, but I might come here. I think that's what I'd like to do. So we got to get out of 6 is my thought, but I don't want to go too far. So we'll play this for a movement. Then, because there are no sparks here, I can create a green program. So it's 3 symbols of the same type to make a program of that color, but purple is wild. So 1, 2, 3 green. I think that's good. I would like to do that. So that's on the 3 of my server. So I'm looking far ahead, at least as far as I feel like I can reasonably do. And then I want to keep this card until next turn because I'm going to use it to take an infect action. So I think that is my current plan. So I'm going to keep this card. I'm going to draw 5 more. I'm going to restock the upgrade area. And then we're going to go from there. So I've got 6 cards to work with this time. All right, so I've got my new hand of cards, and we're going to go back to the top of the turn. So first I need to resolve my start of turn effects. What that's going to mean is I'm going to place a spark on my space. Fortunately, I'm no longer in 6, so I'm not putting another one in 4. I do have this nasty little spark to deal with. And I don't appreciate it, but I must deal with it. Also, I want to retcon something I did last turn. When I moved here, you can carry a program with you. I'm going to say I carried this red with me, and you will see why I did that. I do a lot of thinking and rethinking in this particular game. Okay, so we spawned our new sparks. Now it's time to perform actions. So the first thing I ask myself is, do I want to upgrade? And the answer is yes. I have 2 yellow. I can pay those 2 yellow for a yellow-purple card, so that's just automatically better. This will leave my deck. This will come into my hand. I really like it. And then if I don't want to use it for the symbols, I can play to execute. So remove 1 spark from your space. If you do, then you can place 1 yellow program there. So I might actually do this. That's a very convenient use of this card. Yellow is great, but because I'm playing so hard into red and green, I don't necessarily want to be using the yellow actions in traditional replacement kind of ways. So I think what I want to do is, it would be nice to get rid of this spark. It would be cool to come in here and get rid of this spark and then leave that space so that 4 doesn't continue to get infested with sparks. Because I need that clear at the end of my next turn. So I got some choices here, which I generally really like. Okay. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and use this for its execute action. So execute means that you do the action instead of the symbols. I'm going to remove 1 spark from my space. If I do, I can put out a yellow program. I don't see why not. Sure, let's just do it. So that's this card used. Goes into discard. Now, I'm looking pretty nice and clean. I would like to move. Oh, this is messy. So the problem is I can't split actions across cards. So what that means is that I have to use both symbols on the card or only one of them, but they have to be used towards the same action. So I can't like do a yellow thing and then a random other thing. The purples just let you use the cards when you're not using that kind of action. So I think what we're going to do is let's go ahead and we're going to move with this card. Use that purple as a blue. I'm going to come here. I'm going to carry my little red program. We're going to take an infect action. So basically what this means is I'm going to get in a fight where we have a roll-off with that spark. So right now I'm at +1. The spark is also at +1. And then I can add more for each of these red actions I put in. So let's go ahead and make sure that we're at +3. So 1, 2, 3. I think that, actually, maybe I'll keep this card and I'll play these two for the same effect. That seems good. So we're at +3. I think +3 is like good enough, personally. I could be wrong, but it seems good to me. So let's go ahead and roll these 2 dice. Black is me, red is the spark. So basically, whichever of us has the higher total wins, the spark will win a tie. All right, so it's 4 to 5, but because I had a +3 and they had a +1, I win it, thankfully. Whew. So this is gonna die. Adios. And I still have 2 cards left to do dirty deeds with. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use 1 card to move into 5 and then just keep the other one to next round, I think is the correct choice. I'm gonna keep the green card. We're hoping to be future forward here. So I'm gonna use this one to move. And then I'm gonna come here again with my little program so that I can stay feisty. So all my cards get a discard. And I'm going to get 1 more round. So we're going to draw 5 cards. So as you can see, I've got 5 cards. My draw deck is now empty. So I know this is my last turn of the round. And so let's do our start of turn effects. So we're going to have a spark appear here with me. Then we are going to not spawn new sparks just for 1 more time. We would next round. And then I get to perform actions by playing cards. So let's see what I got. And we also need to refill this little market. Okay, adrenaline surge, that's cool. Very cool. All right, interesting. All right, so hey, this is actually pretty good. So the first thing that I would like to do is fight with that spark. So we're gonna have another infect. I'm at +3, it's at +1. Okay, well, 6 and 6. Still win because I had a better modifier. So this goes into discard. The spark dies. As you might have noticed, you can do much more risky spark battles, but that's really not my thing. I'm a puzzler, not a super high risk taker. All right, so we are going to now do what we can with the rest of the cards we have. We might as well use everything. So let me think about what that means. I think the first thing I want to do is, do I want to upgrade anything? Since we're here, that would be maybe nice. The problem is I don't really have... Would Memory Steel be better as an all green? We're going to try it. So we're going to remove this one from our deck to take this Adrenaline Surge card. I'm iffy about it, but I think that that might ultimately be good. For this particular game at least. And then let's look at this. So I need to spend 2 blue. I can either get Read Request Intercept, so I can put this card plus up to 2 others from my hand on the bottom of the command deck and then draw the same out from my deck, so I can kind of cycle my cards a little bit. Or in this one, I can relocate 1 program from anywhere in the network directly to my space. That's pretty good. Okay, we're going to get rid of Decrypt. We're going to replace it with the Pied Piper. I think that's potentially very, very nice. All right, now we're going to play what we have. So I want to, how do I want to do this? Let's build first. So we are going to use 1, 2, 3 green symbols to build a green program. And we're going to put it right here. So now I have a green program on 5, and I like that. I like that very much. The other thing that actually is really good about Adrenaline Surge is when you play this action as this card is part of an upload action, you can place 1 additional program of the uploaded color on that space. That seems great. So that means I can get a second green, and I will. Very convenient, in fact. We're going to spend this one data steal movement to come here. Ooh, okay, so the problem is I can only carry programs of one color. So I want to come here and just make sure I beat this spark. So I'm going to carry the red, but one thing I would really like is to have a green with me. So first we're going to, with a +3 modifier, have an infect action to get rid of this nasty little spark. Okay, 4 to 4. Again, a better modifier. Fortunately, we are going to tie, but then I beat it on the mods. So, whew, the spark goes away. And then I am going to discard this. And the thing is, I'm kind of happy with where we're at this. I'm going to go ahead and move to a place where I don't have any programs right now. And hope that I pull this and can summon a program later. Although I'll take the red with me so I can keep being a little feisty one. So that is where I'm going to end this round. I should have thought about maybe movement versus killing that spark, but I think I did the right thing in the end. Okay, so I've had all my turns. My deck is empty. So now we're going to go into an SMC phase. So SMC attack, what that means is that any programs that were in spaces with sparks would get in a fight. So the red, we basically perform an infect action repeatedly until everything was dead. So either the red would win or the sparks would kill it off. Any other spaces that have programs that are also occupied by a spark, the programs will all die. Sparks cannot kill installations, so my big square pieces, but guardians can. So basically you do not want to leave programs that you care about in places with sparks. Also, let's say that I moved here. 1 is better if I get to Pied Piper again. I got to think about my greens. Okay, so resolve objective is the next thing we're going to do. We're going to look at this card. So, space 4 on my home space is clear of all sparks and guardians. Thankfully, we're looking good. So, I get success. And then this is fail. So fortunately, I don't have to do the failed thing. Instead, I get to place a green on each space 4 on every server, which is pretty darn nice. It also means, however, that I've got a lot of programs out. This one's likely doomed. But I've got something to work with in my upcoming turn here. Then we're going to move sparks. So moving sparks is done based on what we have here. So basically what this would mean is that every spark in the green server would move up 1 position numerically. So basically the game will try to put them together. So this is green sparks up, blue sparks up, blue sparks up. But since these are clear right now, we're actually okay. If it was purple, they'd be moving and we'd have a problem. So that is that. And then we're going to have a refresh phase where basically I'm going to shuffle all my cards. We're going to refill the market. I'm going to draw up. And then we would play another round, but with a new goal, the new goal being the neural matrix goal. So that is how you play Deckers. Hopefully this was a helpful tutorial for you and you had a good time. I'm having a really wonderful time with this game, and I'm really, really glad that Ricky's rework of Renegade is finally out in the world for all of us to enjoy. It's available as of Essen next week. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, ask questions, and most of all, happy gaming.